and you have individuals like myself that represent more of the poor. You're not supposed to have a strong voice. You're not supposed to even stand up. When you do, even if you have two offices, such as a school board seat and a city council seat, that's too much power for a brown person, especially historically in a place like Salinas, Monterey County. If you look at who currently holds two seats, nothing has happened to those individuals because they belong to a certain class of people. So it's about race, it's about class. The Los Angeles Times did an article about race and class during the time I was on the school board, as well as the city council, and the naming of the new elementary school, Tiburcio Vasquez. This is not new. This goes back to 150 years, even back in history. What happens in my case, instead of doing a public lynching that would happen 150 years ago in the gallows set up in Santa Clara or San Jose courts, you do a public lynching modern day, 2015, which is called censorship action. We talk about intestinal fortitude from this city council and mayor, city manager, city attorney. Well, it was requested, and I have a witness here through my attorney, Anthony Prince. You want to do a censorship action against myself in District 1, then do a public hearing in District 1, and do it at an appropriate time when the working class, because it is no secret that the labor force of the city all resides within that 5 to 6 mile radius in East Salinas. Over half of the residents of the city make up one section. From housing, education, which is no secret in the 11 years I've been on the school board, fighting these issues up at the state level as well. We have safety, security issues. We have a major water issue going on as well with his local water company, which I can't even question here whatsoever because the mayor and city council members protect the water companies here. These rules are being changed as a game of Monopoly. There's no way, the way things are set up right now structurally, that anyone in my position, aside, even if it was not me, but any other young Latino, Latina would be serving in this capacity would make it this far. And if they do, you'll be reminded who the old guard of the establishment is. That's why they use certain media personnel as well that control the corporate about 80% of the message, which is dangerous. That's why we only stick to our Spanish and always boycott it. Like KBSW, Channel 8 as well. Always boycotted those type of messages from that president, manager, bigot, all the way down to what they represent historically. Look at that. There is not a single positive story of East Salinas.
Let me jump in for a second. Sure. Because you guys are members in the media, so as you know, we sent out notices about this event to all members of the media, and our position is that we don't. We're going to give all media a chance to do the job as journalists. If William Randolph Hearst, who owns the Hearst Corporation, owns KSBW, if you go back through history, you'll see that media at that time, go back to the 1930s here in California, William Randolph Hearst was an enemy of working people. He was an enemy of the unions. His papers were clearly on the side of big business, agribusiness, and he would not hesitate to fabricate stories and distort the truth to serve those corporate masters. The question I have is Hearst Corporation willing to come in and accurately report the news? Because I wonder if that's possible. But we're going to give them a chance, and we're going to give all members of the media an opportunity to do what journalists should do. This isn't a game. I have to tell you, this is serious matters. And now what's happened is that the City Council has overstepped into violations of federal law. This is very serious. Section 1985 of the Civil Rights Act has been on the books for over almost 150 years. Even today, there are continuing conspiracies to rob people of their civil rights. The insurance industry recently was hit with a big 1985 lawsuit because they were failing to insure and they were underinsuring seniors. Senior citizens are members of a protected class. They have civil rights that are protected by law. and the insurance companies were colluding to shortchange and refusing to insure these people. They won that lawsuit. That's the same lawsuit, the same claim that we're making right here, and we're confident that we're going to win. We're confident that some outside elements are going to take a look at what's happening in Salinas and realize that this is not a legal situation.
I have a question for you. When you describe Mr. Castaneda and his activism, you could have been describing former Councilman Sergio Sanchez. He too was representing a minority district. He too is a member of the minority class. He too is Spanish speaker. He too defended bilingual education very firmly. He was never censored. He never had these kinds of problems with the city council. So I wonder, have you ever thought, I don't know if Mr. Castaneda has thought about himself, maybe it's not about disenfranchising people, but it's just about his personality, about the way he behaves?
Pero no puedes comparar a dos personas. Everything people is different. Sergio Sanchez is other person and José Castañeda is other person.
Can I have your name, please?
Rosa Espinosa.
Gracias.
Así que no ataques.
No estoy atacando, estoy preguntando.
Just a minute. Hold everything.
Están sufriendo discriminación.
Okay. All right. To answer your question, we're not going to get into it today, but in fact, we know that Sergio Sanchez was also a victim of the deprivation of some of these rights. He was similarly treated in many instances, and we're going to leave that discussion to another time. We're not going to have that discussion now. But the fact that they didn't have a public censure in place during the time that Mr. Sanchez was on the city council, and yet they have one in place now, that was developed for Jose Castaneda. And simply because a member of a protected class, in this case Latino, is able to avoid a harsh discrimination, does not mean that the next person who is similarly treated or is a victim of these type of measures, in this case of public censure, is not a legitimate member of a protected class who's being discriminated against. I mean, that's just a fact. So it's not a question of comparison, it's a question of the study of the facts here, the record of this city councilman, and whether or not these rules and these laws are legal.
Well, then how were Mrs.
Hold up. Let Jose answer that question.
You had enough questions too. So I think because we're on public, Claudia, I think you also have to put a disclaimer out there. You got to understand that there's two factions of Latinos, Chicanos, whatever you want to be classified as. You understand that the factions that there is, that the old guard establishment has manipulated by running their campaigns, pretty much rolling out their campaigns with heavy money. The school board elections is no different, city council elections as well. And I think you need to be forthcoming as well as yourself, because you have taken part in these type of factions, even outside of your journalism reporter role. It was discovered that you actually did a joint business venture with a specific person, Fernando Armenta's cronyism group there in Capadilla. So I think you need to put these things out in public, and we can debate these issues, because when you start doing those type of things, we're doing something of a Jorge Ramos type of deal at a local level. So I think we need to come out clean on who we really stand for, whether it's for what you report for, or whether it's the backing group at the back door.
So are you accusing the Herald of Claudia of being part of a conspiracy
Stop.
against you?
Stop.
No, he put it out there, sir.
Okay.
He put it out there. Is that what you're alleging, that she's part of a conspiracy?
Why don't you step out of the way that the
I am asking you if you can be a responsible journalist. Just a minute.
Humbly, I will say yes.
Hold a minute. Just listen for a minute, okay?
Sure.
Responsible journalists don't stay with the superficial. They dig.
I don't think that was superficial at all. I think that was cutting to the point.
Is this a press conference?
Yeah,
you want to argue
and I'm the
with me?
press or conferencing.
Okay, all right.
We're
No,
making a
this is
point.
our press conference. KCBW, or whatever you are, did not call the press conference. We did.
KBSW.
Okay, you understand? Okay. I'm not going to get into a debate with you. That's not going to happen.
It's
So
fine.
just a minute now.
Nobody wants to.
We are not alleging that this young lady or anyone who's standing here is part of any effort to deprive the councilman of his rights. If at some point we add people to a claim, that's another matter. At this time, what the news item is, what the important story is that we believe we have sufficient facts to show that the city council and the city of Salinas have violated these federal and state statutes. Just a minute, violated these federal and state statutes. I will say one thing about the need to dig deeper. The need to dig deeper. Councilman Castaneda was initially put onto the Housing Committee. And then he became aware of a formal public hearing that was being called by the Assembly on the issue of these officer-involved shootings. Mr. Alvarado here yet? Yeah. Oh, here you are. And so Jose Castaneda and Mr. Frank Alvarado, whose son was killed, was one of the victims of these officer-involved shootings, went to, was it Sacramento? Or went to Sacramento, a joint hearing of the Assembly and State Senate, particularly on this issue. And for that reason, had to necessarily miss one meeting of that Housing Committee. Immediately thereafter, the mayor booted him off that committee. Now, the mayor was up here 2 weeks ago complaining that Jose Castaneda was not here when a major housing issue was being discussed. But if he was so concerned about housing, why did he boot Jose Castaneda off the Housing Committee simply because he spoke out around these officer-involved shootings? We're looking for some consistency here. The same kind of consistency where the city officials, members of the city council, violated the civil rights of Elizabeth Martinez, and the city had to pay $400,000. And these three city council members were never sanctioned, never censured. There was no reproval or accountability of any kind. They could have enacted the public censure rules when that happened. But no, they did not. And yet, here we are with city councilmen whose offenses pale. I mean, they're mostly technical offenses. They're mostly failure to timely file a report. Do you know how many times that happens? And we've resolved these things. They've been resolved. These are pretexts, sir. And so we're not going to get into a discussion of these pretexts. And I would invite the media, this is a serious issue, to dig deeper. There hasn't been a single comprehensive investigative journalist report in this city about these officer-involved shootings. Not one. I lived in Chicago for 20 years, and even on a single police killing, they would assign, the Tribune and the Sun-Times would assign a reporter to dig into the story. Dig into it. 5 officer-involved shootings in 18
what
months.
Does that have to do with this lawsuit?
I'm not done.
It doesn't have anything to do with the lawsuit.
Well, yes, it does. Yes, it does. It has every. I'm going to tell you why it does.
For example, Gloria de la Rosa had 2 public jobs. Health nurse and department health and the city council. Why you not? Why she had 2 jobs?
Right. Well, just a minute on that.
This
a legitimate. What's your name again, sir?
That's Law Dodd.
Law Dodd. That's a legitimate question, and I'm going to answer it. What does the officer-involved shootings have to do with what's going on here, with our claim against the city? It's because that's one of the things. That was the turning point when Jose Castaneda began speaking out, being with the families, such as Mr. Alvarado, being at the marches, organizing these marches and demonstrations, and attempting to put onto the agenda, though he was prevented, the issue of officer-involved shootings here in Salinas. It was at that point that I believe that an escalation took place in the campaign of vilification and an effort to shut this man down, which, as I say, is really aimed at shutting down the rights of the people in the 1st District, and for that matter, all of Salinas residents. All right. So you ask, what does officer-involved shootings have to do with this? This is why they're singling out Jose Castaneda. There isn't any city official who spoke out as adamantly and as consistently in defense of the community. He helped get the Department of Justice in here. He was the one who facilitated meetings. I was part of these meetings with the DOJ last year, and it was Jose that was constantly pushing. They don't like that. They don't appreciate that this gentleman here is speaking out about the issues in District 1 throughout Salinas. So that's to answer your question. It has everything to do with the city's efforts to shut down and silence Councilman Castaneda.